Okay, back with you on the Bronx Buzz. We thank Steve for joining us in our first segment. Second segment, as I promised, we have legendary Bronx photographers with us, and they've got a wonderful new exhibit. So let's say hello to my buddy Edwin Pagan, who is an original of Seis del Sur. Nice to see you, Edwin. Thanks for joining
How are
us.
you, man? Thanks for having me as always.
Great. And now brand new, Abigail Montes. Nice to see you, Abigail. Thanks for joining us.
You as well.
We're going to find out who the heck you are in just a moment. Edwin, Seis del Sur, for people who don't know, why don't you explain what it is and then bring us up to date as to where you're at and what you've been doing nowadays.
Sure. Seis del Sur was formed in 2011. We actually met in 2010, but the group was formed in 2011. And we met as a result of going to a one-man show that Joe Conzo was having at the Center for Puerto Rican Studies when it was still on 67th Street. And Elba Cabrera, the late, great Elba Cabrera, came over and she said, "Hey, I want to introduce you." She introduced a lot of us. And just before we left, Joe Conzo said we should do something. And we started sort of friending each other on Facebook and sort of doing
And let's be clear, it was 6 photographers, 6 of the South Bronx. We're not talking
as in
about
the
North
South
Carolina.
Bronx. Correct.
And so I wasn't aware of that. So Elba is the person who put you, the 6 of you together. It wasn't like something that grew organically along.
No. At the end of the night, she brought us together when the things were spinning out.
And so then what did you do? And then bring us up to date is what we're doing now.
Oh, we started communicating with each other on Facebook, and Joe Conzo said we should do something. David gave the group the name based on...
This is David Gonzalez, formerly of the New York Times.
Right, just retired from the New York Times to 35 years. And he came up with the name based on Rubén Blades, the musician's band, Seis del Solar.
I didn't know that.
And it stuck, it stuck. And we shopped around the concept of doing an exhibit by the 6 of us based on the photos that we had from the Bronx 70s, 80s, and 90s. And it was really strange because most of the people we went to weren't interested. They said they either had their schedules were full or that there wasn't necessarily a need for it, and that why are we rehashing history that's long gone in the mirror? We actually got that from
I'd never heard that. That's startling.
Not.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So and so just to clarify, so these were photographs because you all had lived through the Bronx and the South Bronx in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and these were photographs that you had all, because you had all been photographers. And I recall the day that it was shown to the world for the first time over there at the Bronx Music Heritage Center, and it was spectacular. It was a moment of history, so you could finally, for those of us who may have not lived there or lived through it, see what really it looked like, what it felt like through the eyes of 6. I called David a Sabra, a native of Bronxite, and so that's what it was. Now, what are we doing now? And then, of course, you've got to introduce why Abigail, who is not one of the 6, is now a part of the group.
Well, actually, 2 corrections there.
Okay.
The second exhibit was at the Music Heritage Center.
Oh, that's
the first big one was at the Bronx Documentary Center, and Mike Camber was the only person that when we went to them, because he was a colleague of David Gonzalez at the Times, he was a war correspondent, photojournalist. We met with him, and within an hour and a half, we had picked a date within 3 months of our meeting to set up the show at the Bronx Documentary. So Mike Camber and Bronx and BDC were the first to give us our first seminal show.
Credit where credit is due. And then the second part of it is Abigail.
Is that Abigail actually, as of September 12th, is the newest, one of the newest, 2 newest members to the collective. She is now an official member of Seis del Sur.
We don't call it Ocho del Sur.
No.
Am I the only one who suggested that? And so why we're going to talk to Abigail in a moment. Why were she, and name the second one, I don't have it in front of me, the other one who was made a member.
Carmen Mojica is the second person.
Okay. And why were they selected, given the number of photographers who are
Well,
taking
we
pictures?
have been keeping an eye on them for a long time, and we're not just looking to bring in photographers who document the community. There's a checklist of things that we look at, how they treat the subject matter, how dedicated they have been to documenting the Bronx in the right light, and keeping things historically correct. And Carmen Mojica, actually, Ricky Flores, who knows her for a great deal of time and actually is in some of his vintage photos, had been wanting to get her into the group from the very beginning. But Carmen at the time was living in Puerto Rico, and she didn't have access to a scanner. She just wasn't ready to really.
But now is the time. Let me get to Abigail, so we don't want to run out of time. Abigail, congratulations. You must feel great about being part of this legendary group.
I'm still pinching myself. I mean, it's a great honor to be seen as part of the collective. These are men who I hold in great regard. The work that they have done to document the South Bronx, and specifically the neighborhoods that I come from, has been an extraordinary inspiration for me, and I'm very proud.
It's amazing to be part of it. When did you first put a camera in your hand and say, I like this?
1997, the High School of Art and Design. I was 17 years old, and I thought, well, my dad has all these cameras, and I'm going to inherit them. I just knew that, and I started learning how to use them. And my dad gave me my first camera, and I've just been photographing ever since.
And inspired by our hometown, aren't you? I mean, that taking the pictures of the Bronx, it's almost like you can't take I don't want to say it this way, but you can't take a bad one because there's so much here and everything you look at is iconic. That's the way I look at the Bronx.
I agree. I could not agree with you more. The real catalyst for me, though, was getting my hands on In the South Bronx of America by Mel Rosenthal, who is someone who connects the rest of the slaves too. There are several members who knew him. I did not meet him except for his work, and I feel like my goal is to be his greatest student because I ate that book up. It was the first time that I had really understood, because I had lived, grown up in 1981. I was born, so there was a lot of that time period that I missed out on, and I couldn't understand why there were streets of glass and rubble. All my mother could tell me was that there was a fire. But she couldn't give me any more context.
A fire. That's interesting.
Right, exactly. Because they were busy raising a very young family and doing what they needed to do. And
so you learned the history in part through their photographs, and now I guess you kind of Edwin, they bring it up to date a little bit.
Well, yeah, I mean, she has images too that are very contemporary. Some of the images in the show are from the 90s and 2000s, and she's also also coloring in an area of the Bronx map that she has a lot of coverage on in terms of images.
Can we look at pictures now? Let's stop talking about the pictures. All right, whose is this and what is this?
This is mine. These are two girls that were riding their bike on Hunts Point Avenue and Garrison Avenue. And I happened to capture them as I was on my way to the point where I was a teaching assistant in a program that I now co-run.
Why do you, I mean, I have a visceral reaction to it. Why do you like that photo?
Oh, because it reminds me of me.
Wow.
There's a story behind it. It reminds me of my best friend, Isabel. She and I, there's one girl who has a very determined face, another girl who has a very confident face. And those are two very real things that my best friend and I give to each other. And I was actually on my way to go see her when
you took it.
Yeah.
All right. Let's keep going. We want to see more pictures. That's the beauty. This certainly, I was like, wow, Anthony Bias.
Yeah,
don't we remember?
Yeah, I took that in 1989. I became involved with the Bias family when they started really trying to get the word out, and nobody was really paying attention. And I sort of started helping them along with a few other people to try to get the communications out for them. And so I was writing some press releases for them and documenting.
Right.
And that was a day just before a rally near the home where they killed Anthony Byers. And it's one of the ones that, to me, is very succinct. So you see Iris Byers and her sister, Carol Sandoval, just holding the banner, just waiting patiently to get into the queue to march.
All right, let's keep it going. Let's see what else we got.
Oh, this is mine. These are twin cobblers on Simpson Street in a shoe repair shop that no longer exists. And these men had, come from Colombia, raised their families, and they saw me grow up as well. When I took this photo, I was 36 and 43 now, and they were in business at that point for over 35 years. And like, this place is just like a wonder, as shoe repair shops tend to be. They're like a hoarder's paradise. And, there was always so much to see and explore. And, the relationship that I had with them, I'm sad that they're gone now. But
do you shoot these in black and white, or did you then decide to put them in black and white?
So some of them, the project is specifically in black and white because I want my work to be in conversation with the work that came before me, specifically Mel's, but also, to be in conversation with the SACE, because I look at my work as a continuation of what they were doing, not only because the thing about that book was that it wasn't just the photos, but it was also the context of the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think what each of them that we've seen communicates more than just the photograph. You can sense who they are. It brings, for me, emotionally. Anyway, we got time for one more. We're going to look at one more and then we'll conclude.
These are musicians on the corner of Simpson Street and Westchester Avenue at what used to be Double Discount, a business that was there for over 30 years before they got pushed out.
And, Edwin knows that I'm passionate about music in the Bronx, and this communicates every street corner, every neighborhood. That's what we have, and that's what we are. Listen, Abigail, Montes, thank you so much. Edwin, we'll let you conclude. Where can people see this display? I guess it's called the Historias.
Historias, the stories behind the images. It's on display until January 26, 2025. At the Bronx Museum of History, which is run by the Bronx County Historical Society, who's been a great partner in this, particularly Stephen Payne. And they can also go to seisdelsul.nyc and sort of click the links there or scan the code and go directly to the work. And these have not only the contextual stories behind them, we've added also audio for people that want to just listen to it.
Listen, we do got to run. We're going to run out of time. Edwin Pagan and Abigail Montes, thank you for documenting our borough in the most beautiful, most dramatic, most important ways. Bronx art, Bronx music, that's what we're about. And we thank you, and we hope everybody will check out the exhibit at the Bronx County Historical Society. Up there, it's on Bainbridge, right? That's where we're talking.
That's right.
There you go. All right, we got to run. Thank you guys so much. We also thank Stephen for our first segment. And you know what we say, if the curtain don't fall and the creek don't rise, we'll be back next week. Good night.